I told my fiancée take all the time you need until I saw her visitor pass email. So I cut her off, opened the addendum naming temporary occupant, used Nomi's texts and couch invoice, showed the receipts, pulled autopay. And her board opened an expense review as I moved on with Nomi. The email subject line hit me like a punch. Temporary occupant addendum for Unit 14C attached. I was standing in a gravel turnout beside the tracks and my hands went cold. I did not even open it yet. I am 39 and I fix railroad signals for a living in Walla Walla, Washington. I open steel boxes, test circuits, and replace parts until the light turns steady again. Out here, one wrong wire can send 2 trains toward the same spot. My whole job is to keep the signal green. That morning, the sky was flat and gray, and the wind smelled like wet wheat. My work truck idled behind me, and the relay box clicked like a tiny, angry insect. My phone buzzed again, but I ignored it. I was not ready to hear her voice. Our place was a narrow townhouse in College Place with thin walls and warm floors. It always smelled like toasted sesame because Tamsin loved cooking with that oil. A jar of pens sat by the door, and she lined them up by color like it mattered. Every night at 10, the old wall heater popped once, like a reminder to breathe. Tamsin and I had been engaged for 3 months. We picked a date, then kept pushing it back until things calmed down. She worked as a grant manager at a youth arts nonprofit, and her days were full of deadlines and donors. She was calm on the outside, but her calm had a blade in it. The night she asked for space, she did not raise her voice. She did not cry. She sat at the kitchen table and turned her mug slowly like she was timing me. Then she said, "I need space. Can you move out for a month while I figure out if I want you?" I stared at her like I did not speak English. I asked, "Are you serious, Tamsin?" She said, "Yes, 1 month, it will be good for us." Her eyes stayed steady, like she was reading lines off a card. I wanted to argue, but I could feel a trap under the words, so I replied, "Take all the time you need." The second I said it, her mouth twitched like she won a small game. That tiny twitch told me more than any speech. Here is advice I learned too late. If someone asks you to leave your own home, ask for the terms in writing. Not to be petty, but to stay sane. Words can change in a day, but a message stays put. That same night I packed. I did it quiet and fast, like I was responding to an alarm. I took my clothes, my tools, and the framed photo of my sister at her college graduation. I left the pantry the way it was, even the sesame oil, because I wanted 0 reasons to come back. Tamsin watched from the hallway with her arms folded. She said, "Do not make this dramatic." I did not answer. A mini hook hit me hard as I carried the last box out. If leaving is dramatic, then what do you call forcing someone out? I moved into a caretaker cottage behind a lavender farm outside Milton Freewater. The cottage smelled like dust and dried flowers, and the windows whistled in the wind. There was a tiny stove and a narrow bed and not much else. Still, it felt better than being judged in my own kitchen. Work kept me busy, but the quiet nights were loud in my head. I kept replaying her words, "Figure out if I want you," like I was a sweater she might return. I checked my phone less and less. I kept the signal green at work, but my life felt stuck on yellow. Tamsin texted rules the next day. She wrote, "No showing up. No asking questions. Keep paying your half, we talk at the end." It was cold and neat, like a policy memo. I stared at it for a long time and felt my stomach tighten. Here is the second piece of advice. When a break comes with a bill and silence, it is not a break. It is control with a nicer name. You do not have to accept it. A week passed and something strange happened. I stopped missing her voice. I started sleeping through the night. I ate breakfast without that heavy feeling in my chest. Then Nomi Arcos called me. I had met her once at a family cookout months ago. She was Tamsin's cousin, close in age, and she worked in a viticulture lab at a winery, testing grape samples and tracking sugars. Nomi said, I know this is awkward, but I found a box of your train manuals at my aunt's garage. I told her it was fine and I could pick it up later. She paused and said, "Do you want coffee first? You sound like you are carrying bricks." We met at a small bakery near Pioneer Park. The air smelled like cinnamon and warm bread, and the windows fogged from the ovens. Nomi listened more than she talked. When I explained the move-out for a month rule, her eyebrows lifted and she said, "That is not space. That is a leash." We talked for an hour, then two. I felt normal for the first time in days. She did not push me to hate Tamsin, but she did not excuse her either. That balance felt rare. A few days later, Nomi texted me a photo of the box. Under it, she wrote, "If you need help moving anything else, I can lift more than I look." I smiled, then felt guilty for smiling. Another hook landed right after. The first good laugh after a bad month can feel like a crime. That weekend, I drove past my old townhouse to grab winter tires from the shed. The community uses a visitor parking system that emails the household when a pass is created. My name was still on the account because I had not changed it yet. When I got back to the cottage, I saw the email. It was the first real receipt. A visitor pass had been created for a car I did not recognize, for 3 nights in a row. The address was my old home. The time stamp was late after midnight. I called Tamsin right away. I kept my voice calm and I said, "Why is there a visitor pass at our place every night?" She answered like she was bored. "It is nothing. You are not even living there right now." That was confrontation too. I pushed and said, "You told me you needed space to think, not to host someone." She flipped it fast and said, "So now you are spying. This is why I needed you out." Her voice stayed smooth, but the blame hit hard. I hung up shaking. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the cottage wall. A mini hook whispered in my head. When someone calls your question spying, they are scared of the answer. Nomi came by the next day with my box of manuals. She saw my face and said, "What happened?" I hesitated, then showed her the visitor pass email. She exhaled slow and said, "I was hoping you would not see that yet." I asked, "Yet?" Nomi looked down at her hands and then back up at me. She said, "Tamsin told me you would come crawling back in 2 weeks. She said the month was to reset the apartment and reset you." Her words were quiet, but they landed like a hammer. Nomi pulled out her phone and showed me messages from Tamsin. That was the communication proof, and it burned. Tamsin wrote, "He is safe. He will wait, I just need him off my back for a while." Then another line, "If he loves me, he will stay on the bench." My throat went tight. I did not want to read more, but I did. Tamsin added, "Do not tell him anything. He will get dramatic." Nomi's face tightened with shame as she said, "I did not answer her. I did not like it." Nomi said, "I'm sorry. I should have warned you sooner." I shook my head. "You are warning me now. That matters." I took a breath and felt something steady form inside me like a bolt tightening into place. A few days later, the money proof showed up in the strangest place. I went to the townhouse while Tamsin was at work to pick up my last toolbox. In the kitchen, her favorite cookbook was open on the counter, the one with flour stains on the cover. A folded paper stuck out from the pages like a bookmark. It was an invoice screenshot, printed in color. It was for a large couch, rush delivery, with the townhouse address listed. The payment method line said Riverbend Youth Arts corporate card. Under notes it said, "Deliver while occupant is away." My hands went numb. That was not just dishonest. That was dangerous for her job. I took a photo of the invoice, put it back exactly where it was, and left. Here is advice number 3. When you find proof, do not announce it. Take a picture. Put it back. Leave. A calm exit keeps you safe, and it keeps the truth clean. That night, I called an older attorney named Marlo Brandt. A coworker gave me his number years ago after a messy breakup. Marlo sounded like he had heard every version of "It is complicated." He said, "Meet me somewhere public. Late. Bring what you have." We met at a travel plaza off Highway 12 near Wallula Junction. The air smelled like diesel and burnt coffee, and the floor was sticky under my boots. Marlowe wore a plain coat and carried a thin folder like it weighed nothing. His eyes were calm like storms did not impress him. He looked at the visitor pass email, then the messages, then the invoice photo. He did not gasp. He just nodded once and said, "This is not a break. This is a removal." Then he added, "Also, her nonprofit board will care a lot about that invoice." Marlowe gave me short, sharp guidance. "Change your mailing address today," he said. "Get off any shared accounts you can," he said. "And if a lease document shows up, do not ignore it." He tapped the table lightly. Paper beats feelings in rooms like this. 2 days later, I finally opened that email I saw by the tracks. Temporary occupant addendum for Unit 14C attached. My chest hurt before the file even loaded. When it did, I stared at the signed pages until the words blurred. The document said I had vacated voluntarily and that Tamsin would be the sole occupant for a trial period. Then, on the next page, it listed a temporary occupant by name. Not Nomi, not family. It was someone I had never heard of. It was the killer receipt, and it made the whole story clear. The month was not for thinking. The month was to swap me out like a broken part. I spend my days making sure trains do not crash, and now I saw the tracks switch in my own life. Nomi came by the cottage that evening with 2 paper plates and takeout noodles. We ate at the tiny table, and the lavender smell mixed with soy sauce. I told her about the addendum, and she went silent, then angry. "She signed something saying you left," she said. "That is cruel." I did not plan to date Nomi. I did not plan anything. But sitting there with her, I felt seen, not managed. A hook line rose in me like a flare. Sometimes the person who helps you carry boxes is the person who helps you breathe. A week later, Nomi and I went to a small local concert at a community hall. We held hands outside in the cold, and it felt simple, not rushed. I told her, "This is fast." She nodded and said, "Fast is not the same as careless." Tamsin found out 3 days after that. She called me 15 times, then left a long voice message. I did not play it. I do not need noise to confirm what I already know. My life had been stuck under her rules, and I was done asking permission. Thanksgiving came with bright sun and sharp wind. Nomi invited me to her aunt's house in Touchett because she did not want to walk in alone. She said, "If Tamsin is there, she will corner me." I agreed to go because I was tired of hiding like I did something wrong. The house smelled like turkey and rosemary, and cars lined the gravel shoulder. Inside, people laughed and moved around the kitchen like a dance. Nomi squeezed my hand once, then let go, like she trusted me. I kept my shoulders loose and my mouth shut. Tamsin spotted us from across the living room. Her face went blank first, then tight, then red. She walked straight toward us with that calm blade in her eyes. The room got quieter, not silent, but watchful. That was confrontation 3, and it hit like a door slamming. Tamsin started with denial. "You chose to leave," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I never told you to move out." I did not raise my voice. I said, "You said, can you move out for a month while I figure out if I want you? I still have the message." Tamsin's lips pressed together, and she shifted her weight like she wanted to change the floor under her. Then she minimized. "It was 1 month," she said. "People take space. You are making it a big deal." Her eyes flicked around the room, checking for support. She wanted the crowd to do the work. Then she partially admitted. "Fine," she snapped. "I asked for space. I did not think you would replace me in a week." Her words landed like she owned the timeline of my healing. Nomi inhaled sharply beside me. Then came the emotional move. Tamsin's voice cracked and she said, "You did this to humiliate me on Thanksgiving. You ruined my family." She put a hand to her chest like she was the injured one. A few people murmured, and I could feel the room leaning. Nomi stepped forward then, and her voice stayed steady. "You did not want space," she said. "You wanted him waiting while you tried a new life in his house." That was the kill shot line, and it made the room go still. I pulled my phone out and showed Tamsin the signed addendum. I did not wave it like a weapon. I just held it there, calm and plain. Explain this, I said. Tamsin stared at the screen and her calm finally cracked. Her eyes darted left and right. She whispered, "That was just paperwork," like the words could erase ink. Then she saw the name of the temporary occupant and flinched. I showed her the visitor pass email next. "This is the car at the house," I said. Then I showed the messages Nomi had saved. Then I showed the invoice screenshot. I kept the order clean like a report. I was done living in fog. Tamsin's face changed as each receipt landed. She opened her mouth, then shut it, then tried again. "It is not what it looks like," she said, but she did not sound sure. For the first time, she looked like someone standing on the wrong track with a train coming. An older man across the room, someone from the nonprofit world I had seen at a fundraiser before, stared at the invoice photo. He did not speak to me. He just stared at Tamsin like he was counting costs. That look was judgment enough. Tamsin turned on Nomi with sudden rage. "You betrayed me," she hissed. Nomi did not flinch. "You asked me to lie," she said. I said no. I felt my own anger rise, hot and sharp, but I held it down. Trains do not stop for feelings, and neither does truth once it starts moving. I said, "I moved out because you asked. I moved on because you showed me I was a backup." My voice stayed even. Tamsin's eyes filled, but the tears did not change anything. She took a step closer, then stopped when she saw I would not step back. She whispered, "Please, not like this." I answered, "You chose like this when you made me temporary." Nomi and I left before dessert. We did not slam doors. We did not argue with anyone else. We just walked out into the cold air and breathed. A week later, Marlowe called me with an update. He said Tamsin's nonprofit board opened an expense review after someone forwarded the invoice and the addendum note. He did not tell me who did it, and I did not ask. He said, "Boards do not like surprises, and they really do not like personal purchases." Tamsin texted me twice after that. The first was anger. The second was begging. I did not reply to either. I changed the things I could control. I removed my autopay from the townhouse utilities. I updated my address everywhere. I made a simple list of what I owned and what I left behind, and I saved it in a folder like Marlowe told me. At work, I took the supervisor exam I had been putting off. I started training the new guys on the signal boxes, showing them how to listen for the right click. When the light turned steady, you do not celebrate. You just note it and move on. I kept the signal green, one box at a time. By spring, I moved into a small rental near the edge of town with a porch that faced open fields. Nomi visited on weekends, and we cooked simple meals and talked like adults. She did not punish me for questions. She did not turn my life into a test. One evening, we sat on a bench at Bennington Lake with paper cups of hot chocolate. The water was flat and dark, and geese moved in a slow line across it. Nomi leaned her shoulder against mine, and I felt calm in a way I forgot existed. Some people call that boring, but I call it safe. Thank you so much for watching the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe the channel.